What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Reformed Reader, the channel where we review different forms of media through the lens of a Christian who is under the authority of the scriptures. My name is Josh, and today I'm going to be going over 10 of my unpopular opinions. Now, before we get started, at the beginning of every video, I say a channel where we review different forms of media, but I've really only focused on books with, I think, one video exception. So what I'm going to do is give you an unpopular book opinion, and then I'm going to give you an unpopular opinion about some other form of media. So without any further ado, let's jump right in to number one, which is that I prefer ebooks. What I mean by this is I read predominantly on my Kindle, almost exclusively on my Kindle actually, and pretty much all of the books you see behind me here are shelf trophies. All of the books that you've seen when I've done my bookshelf tours and those types of things, almost all of those are completely unread. What? With a few exceptions. And that's because I want to have a physical copy of the book that I've read, owned, and loved for various reasons. But one of which is that with my ebooks, I know that at any given time, Amazon can decide to just yoink that right out of my Kindle. And so then I no longer have access to that book. So I want to make sure that I always have access to the books that I have purchased. And I also love reading from physical books, but it is so much more convenient and easier for me to read on my Kindle because I like reading at night. And so I like having it backlit. I like that I can adjust the colors, so the softness of it so that it doesn't hurt my eyes. I also used to read almost exclusively on my iPad, and that really started hurting my eyes. And so with Mike's recommendation to switch to a Kindle, it really did make the world of difference because I was about to switch back and just read my physical copies of books, but I like having my books in pristine condition. So I prefer ebooks, and all of the physical copies of books that I have are pretty much shelf trophies with few exceptions. All right, unpopular opinion number two is that John Lennon stinks. I cannot stand John Lennon's music. I do not like any Beatles songs that were written by him that I know of. Yeah, some of them were catchy, but I do not like John Lennon at all. I do not think he was a contributor to society. I think that, yeah, just not a fan overall. So not a fan of John Lennon, not a fan of his music. Yeah, super overrated in my opinion. Yeah, I'll leave it there. You guys can get mad at me in the comment section, I guess. All right, number three is going to be that the Bloodsworn saga was extremely overhyped. So the only John Gwynne that I've read is the Bloodsworn saga. I do have his Faithful and the Fallen series, and I do have the sequel series that follows Faithful and the Fallen. I think it's Of Blood and Bone, maybe, but I have not read them yet. And in large part because I really got turned off with the Bloodsworn saga. Now, I didn't dislike the Bloodsworn saga. I thought book one was pretty good and book two was a little bit better, but I read book three and I practically DNF'd it. I got like 70% of the way through it and I was just bored to death. The fight scenes are really cool. But I got to where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to see if there's a synopsis online and I'm going to finish out the story here because otherwise I'm going to end up putting it down or I'm going to hate read the rest of it. And I didn't want to do either one. And so I looked up a synopsis. I finished the story out and I was like, that's about kind of what I expected. So yeah, I thought it was extremely overhyped at the time. Now, I will say the covers are fantastic. The covers are really cool. Some of my favorite covers that I own, especially with them not being some sort of special edition. I really enjoy the covers, but yeah, I was just not a fan of the Bloodsworn saga for the most part. I thought that Orca's point of view was really good. And I can't even remember the bad guy's name, but all the Vargs was really cool. But otherwise, yeah, it was just kind of meh for me. All right, number four is going to be that the Legend of Zelda franchise is overrated. Now, I know some people are going to be like throwing stuff at their TV or they're going to chunk their phone with me saying that. I'm pretty big into video games, or at least I was. I'm definitely not so much anymore with being older, but I've played pretty much every Zelda game I think that's come out, with a few exceptions being like some of the handheld ones. But as far as like the main platformer kind, really the only one that I liked was Wind Waker. And I know that people are going to be like flipping tables and stuff, but Wind Waker was really the only one that I cared for, and really was the only one that I cared enough about to finish. Now, my brother, he loves the Legend of Zelda games. Both of my older brothers, they loved Link to the Past, they loved the original, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. But like, while I loved the story, I did not like the games. I did not like doing all the dungeon crawling, and I was just not a fan. And it kind of seemed like it was the same thing over and over and over and over with each game. It's just, it got tweaked a little bit. The graphics changed or whatever. You know, maybe you had a little side companion. The only one that I didn't play that sounded really cool was Twilight Princess. And so I would like to play that one because I heard the story and it is really good. And that includes Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. My son loves those. I'm glad he likes them. They're good, clean, the expansive worlds and stuff. But otherwise, they're not for me. I think they would work for me much better in novel form if I had the stories, but otherwise, I really just don't care about them. All right, number 5 is going to be The Shadows of Self is the best Mistborn book. Now, I'm probably going to take some heat for this one, but the first Mistborn trilogy I liked, and I definitely got the hype to a degree. But keep in mind that this was sort of I think for a lot of people, it was one of the first fantasy series that got me back into reading fantasy. So I thought it was good, but I did not connect with Vin's character at all. I didn't like her. I thought she was really whiny, that she just complained. Her attitude was constantly dour. It was just hard for me to read. I actually preferred, I think it's Eland. I preferred his character much more. And Sazed, I thought they were really cool. And Kelsier, obviously, I really liked. But I just didn't really care about Vin. And obviously, Vin is our main character. And so the first 3 books were like, I thought they were pretty good. I thought the story was cool. But I didn't care about Vin's character development or anything, because she just went from being like a brooding novice to a brooding expert, in my opinion. And so when I picked up Era 2, I did not really care for Alloy of Law at all, but I wanted to read all of the Sanderson books. And so I get to Shadows of Self, and I was like, all right, here we go again. And I noticed that about a quarter of the way through, I was pretty invested. Now, I appreciated Alloy of Law because it introduced us to Wax and Wayne, and we didn't have to go through all that type of character development into book 2. We could kind of be thrown straight into the story. But without going into spoilers, the ending of Shadows of Self, to me, was one of Sanderson's best endings of his entire catalog. There was depth the plot twist and emotional impact that had with me was higher than 90, probably 95% of his other books. So I would say, probably with the exception of the first 2 Stormlight books, those had a pretty high emotional impact. But otherwise, I thought Shadows of Self had more of an emotional impact on me than pretty much any of those other books. Not only did I like Shadows of Self the best out of Era 2, but I thought it was the best Mistborn book, in my opinion. Unpopular opinion number 6 is going to be that I hated Avengers Endgame. Man, I hated that movie. I know a lot of people absolutely loved it. I despised Endgame. Now, what stinks is that I absolutely loved Infinity War. I loved the ending of Infinity War. I was like, oh man, this is amazing. To me, it had a similar feel, or at least my response to it was similar to how I responded to the Unbreakable movies, like Unbreakable Glass and Split. They went in a direction that nobody expected, and that was fantastic. But then throughout the entire movie of Avengers Endgame, you're just doing away with all that. You made it completely meaningless and pointless. I despised it. Now, the first, like, what is that, 10 minutes where they meet up with Thanos and Thor just, gives him the axe. Spoiler alert. I thought that was awesome. And I was like, okay, so we're about to figure out how the Avengers are going to learn to deal with this new universe that Thanos has put us in. I thought that was awesome. As soon as they started talking about time travel, I was checked out. I'm like, okay, you guys have just ruined almost all of the Marvel movies for me, because at this point, What can you not do? And then why would you not change it? I don't like time travel. I don't like them people going back in time and changing things with few exceptions because it's almost never done well. And there's never really a good reason for them not to use time travel later on. Like the fact that Black Widow had to die so that they could get the Infinity Stone, why they couldn't just go back after they solved everything and make her alive again makes zero sense to me. Because they didn't explain it. The answer was they just couldn't. Man, it just completely robbed me of all the things that I loved about Infinity War and all the other movies because there were high stakes, and you just remove that when you say, "Well, we can go back and change it." That's a big part of it. Hulk was horrible. That was a horrible choice. I was absolutely repulsed by what they did to the Hulk. Nobody wants to see a weak beta male Hulk. Okay, that's not the Incredible Hulk. That's the Incredible Nerd, and that's what we got. He was super lame. On top of that, everybody talks about the big end scene. I was so underwhelmed. Like I was almost mad in the theater seeing it because just so many reasons. But one of which is for those of you who have actually paid attention, there's a big like girl boss scene where all the ladies come in and they have to save the day and help Peter Parker and Iron Man because they can't do it on their own. So they need, Pepper Potts and Black Panther's sister and Captain Marvel, who's extremely overpowered, by the way. And she, like, where did she go through this whole time? Why wasn't she there during Infinity War? Which I know it explains it in Captain Marvel. I didn't watch that movie. I'm not going to watch that movie. But their explanation was she wasn't there. A horrible explanation. If she's so overpowered, like Marvel decided to make her, then why didn't she just save the day before? I mean, it's just there was that, and then it's like the only impactful moment was Tony Stark. The "I Am Iron Man" snap. Why they didn't play the Iron Man song, the Black Sabbath song, then like they did in the first movie? Huge missed opportunity there. And somebody actually put that music to that scene on YouTube. I highly recommend it. I'll try to link it down in the description below. It was awesome. Captain America picking up the hammer. I was like, okay, I'm on board there. I get it. Everybody kind of expected that to happen. But how come Captain America could shoot lightning? How come Captain America could fly with it? How come Captain America could throw the hammer and have it come back to him? Not for me. I hated Endgame. It ruined almost all the Marvel movies for me. Unpopular opinion number 7 is going to be that Project Hail Mary is just okay. Yeah, the first time I read it, I absolutely loved it. And if you guys happen to look at any of my Goodreads reviews, I think I put it at 5 stars. It blew me away. It was fantastic. And keep in mind, I was just coming off of reading The Martian, which I did absolutely love and still do. But when I read Project Hail Mary the first time, I was like, whoa, this is fantastic. This is, he did such cool things with the different characters and blah, 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 blah. But I reread it this past year and I was just underwhelmed. I remember this being better. I remembered the character development being a lot better. And then it was just like, okay, so this is Mark Watney again. It's just a different name. That's essentially what our main character is. And then our other main character, and I won't get into spoilers here, but our other main character was Mark Watney, but a different species, right? It's just like, what in the world is going on? And so all of that to say, I was just like, the first time I read it, really enjoyed it. The second time I read it, I didn't even finish it because I was bored. It seemed like I was reading a science or physics textbook more so than I was reading about our characters. So yeah, Project Hail Mary, it's just okay. Okay, number 8 is going to be that Galaxy Quest is the best Star Trek movie. Many of you may not even remember Galaxy Quest. I think this came out in like 2001 maybe, or something like that. This was a parody movie to the Star Trek films. Starred Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, a couple other guys. I think Tony Shalhoub was in it. I think Rainn Wilson was in it too. This movie was phenomenal. It poked fun at the Star Trek movies in all the right ways while keeping a great story and having really heightened humor. And the humor isn't just base level. I mean, it's pretty layered. So each time I've watched it, I've caught things that I forgot about. That movie is hilarious. If you guys like the Star Trek movies, whether they're the old ones or the newer ones, if you like that, and you guys haven't seen Galaxy Quest, go watch it. I think it's free on YouTube. It is super funny. But yeah, the Star Trek movies, I've never really been impressed with. I've never really been all that invested in. But Galaxy Quest made me like Star Trek more because of them picking at certain aspects of it. So yeah, Galaxy Quest is by far the best Star Trek movie out there. Okay, number 9 is going to be that I judge books by their covers. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but that's not actually the saying. The saying is actually don't just judge a book by its cover. So when people say, well, you can't judge a book by its cover, you absolutely can. And if you couldn't judge a book by its cover, why are authors paying top dollar? I think sometimes like a third of their budget is for the cover art. There's a reason for it. It's because we do judge books by their covers. Now, I say it's an unpopular opinion, but it isn't really, because I think most of us do judge books by their covers. For those of us that have walked into a bookstore or a library without really knowing what we wanted, you've probably gravitated towards a cover that jumped out at you and you're like, ooh, that looks cool. And then maybe you read the summary or the description on the back cover or whatever. But I definitely do judge books by their covers. There are numerous books on my shelves that have jumped up on my TBR list because of the cover art. Raymond E. Foss, the magician, or magician, whatever it is, it wasn't even on my radar until the Broken Binding came out and they said, we're going to release a special edition of this for our subscribers. And I was kind of like, I'll find somebody that wants these and sell them. But when they released the cover art, I was like, whoa, if this is what is inside of this book, I'm on board, because the cover for that book is amazing. Same can be said for most of the Broken Binding books. I also say the same thing for the Sun Eater books. That's what drew me in first, was the covers. I'm like, wow, those covers are so cool. And the same with Hyperion and several others. Pretty much anything that Jeff Brown has done recently, I want to pick up and read. So if I see that Jeff Brown has released a new cover for a book, some new artwork, I go and find out what that book is, and it's probably in my Amazon wish list because they are so cool. I mean, not only would they look good on the shelves, but he is able to capture things about the story in one piece of artwork so well. And I use the Silver Blood Promise as a good example of that. For those of you that have seen that cover, I mean, this cover is just ridiculously good. And it does really encapsulate the book in one piece of artwork. I mean, really, really good. Yeah, it was a good book. And would I have picked this book up without him doing the artwork or without the Broken Binding releasing an edition? Probably not, because it's a debut. It's a debut author with a debut novel. And, to me, I'm like, well, maybe he hasn't sunk his teeth into his writing yet. Maybe he hasn't worked out some of the kinks. But when they released that, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. So yes, I absolutely judge books by their covers. And I bet you do too. Okay, and the last one for today is going to be that I don't find The Office funny at all. I'm just kidding. I'm not a psychopath. The Office is hilarious. No, the real one is going to be that I actually enjoy editing videos. I enjoy the editing process. Now, I know a lot of people hate editing videos, and I understand why they don't like it. But at the same time, I actually enjoy editing videos because it gives me the opportunity to tell a story, gives me the opportunity to tell the story that I want to tell. It's storytelling through video format. I enjoy not only editing these videos, but I also I've edited some videos for some family, some family vacations. They'll just send me, they took some video on their GoPro or on their phone, or they take pictures or whatever, and they'll send them to me, and I'll piece those together because I love being able to thread a story together with these videos and pictures, so that way that then they have a concise, not only this cool video, but it's a story of their memories. It's a story of their trip or their vacation. Or, I've edited videos for people's businesses, those kinds I love being able to tell that story and be able to condense it in such a way that conveys a particular message to the viewer. So I actually really enjoy editing videos. Now, the sort of caveat there is, yeah, it's really time consuming. I think, I was talking to somebody at work the other day. They were asking about possibly having me edit one of their home videos. And I told them, they're asking if I like what I would charge them. And I gave them a number and they were like, "Ooh, that's kind of expensive." And when I explained to them, for every minute that you guys get, as far as like the viewer, for every minute you guys get, that takes me 30 minutes to an hour. To get a minute's worth of content normally, with some exceptions. If I'm not having to do multiple takes of something, if I'm not having to stop, if I don't have some malfunctions with my camera or audio equipment or lighting, for those of you that have seen that, then yeah, maybe it won't take as long, but I still have to go in and I edit the audio, the video, I have to adjust the colors and the lighting, and so that takes a while. But then, especially when I do the book reviews and I put together sort of like a little book trailer, those take quite a while. It normally takes me a couple of hours just to do the little book trailers. So there is a lot of time involved in editing the videos, but I do enjoy it. It's creative, it's fun, it's storytelling through video form. I love being able to pick the right music for certain things, or when to ease music in, or when to fade out, or when to throw in the little quips or these little clips here and there of different things. I love that. So yeah, I'm the weird one who loves editing videos. So guys, those are 10 of my unpopular opinions. Let me know what you think down in the description below. If you guys have some other unpopular opinions, let me know. I've got enough to come up with several other videos. So I'll come out with another one of these before too long. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me and listening to me ramble for a little bit and probably just, dump water all over your fire. Yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.